I'm not Jacob. I'm not as pretty as him. But this is Punditviews. I'm the normal producer of the show, Denzel Snipes, and we're gonna do something a little different tonight. So, my interview skills aren't too shabby. But I'm gonna bring in this guest, the renowned member of the entertainment industry or the beginning parts of it. Um, Sideline Sports is everywhere, just like I have said and will never stop saying. You hit that like and subscribe button, you'll see exactly what I mean. But I'm gonna bring this guy in, but you all recognize him.
Well, I'll tell you this: you don't have as much hair as I do, nor gray.
Yep, that is true. You do. You definitely have to be on the grades. Yes, you are not seeing things, people. He is in the interviewee seat tonight, and
We just
tonight
we had an idea. We had a good interview and everything with an up and coming film producer, and I'm guessing he's producing film right now, and it didn't work out, which is fine. I'm not going to knock on everything. It's like there's going to be that things will happen, and we just go on. But it was the perfect time to do the Ask Jake Anything type stuff. You know what I mean?
And this is exactly why this show is Ask Jake Anything Pro Wrestling Edition. So here in about 29 minutes, Monday Night Raw is coming on. But hey, why not get the evening started with something like this? So let's roll into it. It won't be too much time here. But and if you can just look at the bottom ticker there, you can catch us on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, hosted by Jacob
Yeah,
Christner,
that.
except tonight on the Sideline Sports Network. So, our first topic, the WrestleMania 8 main event. What Jake thinks it should have been. So the main event of WrestleMania 8 was Hulk Hogan versus Psycho Sid Vicious.
Barf.
And I had seen countless articles that has said that the WWF dropped the ball on what should have been the main event. Now, Jake, you can pick any other match on the card, or you could piece together what you thought should have been the main event, just like this guy versus this guy, instead of like who they fought at the actual event. So either another match on the card being the main event, or make up another main event of your own, or maybe you think that this main event should have remained. But what do you think the main event should have been?
There's nothing in life that's makes me think that Hogan and Sid needed to ever be in the ring together. That was horrid. That was awful. Oh, and it's like, mind you, Hogan was still over. Mind you, he got. The thing is, he could get it over. He can get his little cup in his ear over. He could tear the shirt. That'll be forever. But here's the thing: you need offense to make it look good. Sid had no offense. He had the big kick. He had the power bomb,
A
and
lot of
he
people would
could
say
not.
the same thing about Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, but Hogan could punch. The Hogan, but he punched 100,000 times. But at least his punches looked actual. You know what I mean? Here's
Right.
here's here's Sid's punches. Yeah, I mean here's Sid's punches. I mean it was just it was just horrible. And it's like
It's
no,
crazy. It's crazy you say that because if you know Sid Vicious outside of the ring, he actually was an avid softball player,
yeah,
and ironically, that's exactly how he threw a punch. Go
yeah,
ahead.
oh yeah, and no, and it's like truthfully, I'll say this: you either have Hogan and Flair, or you just let Hogan go and let it be the main event be Randy and Randy and Nate.
Mm.
Yeah, and just let Hogan go. You know, just because he was already doing more like films and doing all that stuff by that time. It's just like I think they were just so darn afraid to go ahead because they had gone so long and so many main events with him. I
Yeah.
think they were afraid, and you got to remember that main event still filled the Hoosier Dome,
Yeah,
so
that is true. Now,
it filled
also
it.
keep
So
in
they're just
mind,
afraid.
that when Hogan lost to Warrior at WrestleMania 6, that was supposed to be the passing of the torch, but Warrior got into his issues. They had to they had to take it back to Hogan.
Well, the biggest thing to remember is remember the first one without Hulk was WrestleMania 10. It's Madison Square Garden, which is still like 17,000 people, 18,000. they didn't go all the way out. They didn't throw a big, huge stadium thing with, without Hulk. You know what I mean? Got to remember what he filled in his time. I mean, the Pontiac Silverdome. Then let's see the Pontiac Silverdome, the Sky Dome. Let's see the Sky Dome on that, and then the Hoosier Dome. In those three, he was filling them. Yep. So there's a fear of. Yes, that is very, very true. Very, very, very true. Great music.
Tyler hated Warrior, bro.
I'm not a Warrior fan, but the biggest issue is I'm either going to go Hogan and Flair, or you just let Hogan go and you take the chance. You take the chance. It's like I don't know how much fear they had of doing that because they kept bringing Hulk back, but it's like you got to remember in there, the WrestleMania 10. Was the MSG, and WrestleMania was the Hartford Civic Center, which was pitiful.
Yeah,
that place, the Hartford Civic Center looked like one of those what's the thing that we can say with that? Like one of those storage units. It looked like one of the storage units that held all of their stuff, and Vince figured he couldn't afford a place anyways, so he's going to hold his storage unit.
Yeah,
it was inside of a mall. It looked terrible, and it looked terrible, and it had a couple of WrestleMania banners. It was awful. And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me throw another suggestion at you as far as what could have been. And they had a damn good match, but they would never let the Intercontinental Championship headline a WrestleMania. Hart Piper.
Well, and that was and it's like. And plus the fact you would not, I mean, that was the big thing about it. You would have to pay Piper the main event money, which if you don't pay the main event money, you got to remember he'll walk.
He will.
He'll walk if you don't pay the main event money on that. So,
and then how do you outpay Hogan?
Yeah, and how do you outpay him? Yeah, but it was a great match. But that's the big thing was. They had one in 1992. You got to remember, but 92. But Hogan was still technically with the company, even though he wasn't there. Right. They had the thing at the time. It was the Wembley Stadium. There's still that little ghost of Hogan, even though he wasn't there. You
that's
still
true.
Had the thought, but it's like after Hogan, you had all those small stadiums. They did not fill anything of substance until the Astrodome, like 7-8 years later.
True.
Because it's like. That's the whole thing. There was that little fear of no Hulk. That guy, you got to remember. Look what he filled. Look what he helped fill after he came back. The Sky Dome again, and then the Sky Dome again, and then Seattle's the Safeco Field.
Right.
And he filled that too, and that with the McMahon and everything. The guy has filled stadiums for the longest time, so it's like he knew how to put asses in seats.
And it's crazy. I'm wondering if Hogan Rock was supposed to be a one-shot deal, but because of the reaction of the fans, it sparked a second run for Hulk Hogan.
No, Hogan had so many darn runs. That was that guy. There's just one thing with him. I think there's a little fear to ever, even though he's old and he's crooked and crippled up now, and it's like, and I mean, he walks and it's everything like that. You notice he just goes out there and he introduces and goes. There has to be a bit of a fear. And it's the same with Flair. To ever let him do too much. Because you remember that one part when they're on the Miz's show? Yeah, when they're on the Miz's show and they're pretending to get to the fight one more time. And the whole place, like 19,000 people, stood up. They were standing up. They expected it. And it's like, those old men had it one more time. And it's like, there's always that fear that they'll overwhelm. Those personalities like that will overwhelm because they are professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
People see right through who are not professional wrestlers.
That's true.
That they're entertainers. These guys are legitimate professional wrestlers who know what they're doing.
Yes, they know exactly what they're doing.
And it's like they're 70 years old. Excuse me. They're 70 years old, and they did that one more time on the Miz's show.
Yeah.
And they did that thing, and it's like there is probably that fear that they could do that. Even though it'd be a horrible match, that they could fill, and then they're going to want that money again. So they don't let them do too much.
Yeah, they don't do entirely too much. So next topic, you're gonna like this one.
Yeah.
You remember that time Psycho Sid was in ECW?
unfortunately.
Your thoughts on it? Do you think he really made an
I
impact? Was it
don't
just
like
nostalgia?
yeah. I don't like Sid. I never have. And it's like, I mean, you might as well just use 911 for the same thing. I mean, and I wasn't a fan of 911 because they couldn't do anything. But
Mm.
but the thing is, the reason I can't stand Sid is just because you could say that the Hulk could have been the same way with at the moves, but watch Hulk in Japan.
Right.
Watch Hulk in Japan, and he, even though he had 5 or 6 other moves, that's still 5 or 6 more than Sid ever had.
Yeah.
And it's 5 or 6 more than Sid ever had, and it's like, and he wasn't doing anything like that. Sid had a look. Congratulations. You know what I mean? Sid had a look. Congratulations. Sid had he was a tremendous bodybuilder look. He would have probably won Mr. America or
Yeah.
Mr. Universe. He probably would have won those. He had an amazing physique. Excuse me, I'm just getting over this. But I don't like. There's nothing he could have done in ECW. There's nothing he could have done with anything like that because this is in the midst of everything. They had some amazing workers.
Of course.
They had amazing work. You can mix all of the violence with Benoit versus Guerrero. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
what's Sid? I mean, what's Sid gonna do? What 911 did? I mean, 911, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't a fan. 911 looked like Jake Roberts with steroids.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and it was probably about 2 inches taller, maybe.
True.
Go ahead.
I think Sid in ECW was more of a bridge because he left the World Wrestling Federation in '97, and there was kind of that dead period, and then he's in ECW, and then like later on that year in '99, he pops up in WCW and becomes a main star and my main eventer. You know,
Well,
I mean, his
he's the main.
days in WCW as a main eventer, I think, were better than his days in WWF.
He's the main eventer because he's over. I don't
Yeah,
deny that he's over. He was completely over, and he was really over as a babyface. That's the funny part.
yeah.
But which is so hilarious, to be said. Let's see. Well, here's the thing, Tyler. Let me say this: give Goldberg. You give Goldberg. Check out a couple of his. Squash matches. Of his billion squash matches he had. Check out some of his squash matches. Check a couple of those twisting neck breakers. The guy can move.
Yeah, he can.
I mean, Warrior could not wrestle. He had to go and get all that thing. He had his moves, but he had to sell because of the right guys he had.
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg could move. He could wrestle if you gave the thing. He just didn't have. He just wasn't in shape.
Goldberg?
No.
Oh, Sid.
I'm talking cardio.
Yeah.
He wasn't in shape cardio wise. I mean, he'd go 3 minutes. I mean, he looked amazing, but it's like he went 10 minutes with DDP or 12 minutes, and you're like,
Well, also keep in mind, by nature, he's a defensive lineman.
mm-hmm.
Now, at the same time, so was The Rock, and The Rock could actually move. Well, he was actually in shape.
Rock could go 30.
Yes, Rock went an hour one time.
Yes. Rock, but see, Rock completely changed his cardio. He changed his cardio up. He changed everything up to be able to be in that. The Goldberg stayed as a football player. He stuck as a football player that's annihilated people. You don't have to have that much shape when you're annihilating people. And I like that Goldberg annihilated people for the moment.
Right.
I liked it was for the moment because it fit. And the moves looked good. And he was fast. And it was kind of fun. And he could do backflips. And it was like everything. But he wasn't going to be a worker. And it's like, I like the guys that can legitimately annihilate you. Like that look and the legit can annihilate. I like those type of guys. That's what I wanted Dan Severn to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted.
That's true.
That's like he would do it. But I love when he snapped D'Lo Brown's chest. Like when he it's like,
oh yeah, that was brutal. I'll say this much: When Goldberg came along, it was something that no one had ever really seen in pro wrestling. You know, very, very, very rarely did you get a squash match. You know, like so in the '90s and in the '80s, right? Even if it was a jobber or whatever, like it still kind of gave him a match, right? You know, a little bit.
Yeah.
But Goldberg literally would, just like they said on the documentary, he hit you, he come out, he breathed fire, he hit you again, spear, jackhammer. 3 minutes later, he's back in the locker room. He hadn't even broken a sweat.
Well,
No one had seen anything like this before, so it brought about this mystery. Okay, you got these lower carders and these jobbers that are getting squashed, and people start dreaming up. Okay, what if Goldberg went against this dude on the mid card? What if? And then he started squashing them. What if? Like he squashed Conan, K Dog.
well, and especially, and Conan didn't sell that either. But Conan just did not like to sell. He was basically Hulk Hogan in Mexico. But the
Yeah.
but the biggest thing I think about is bringing back to Dan Severn for a second. I saw the video the other day of Severn running to the ring when Triple H did a open challenge for the European title, and all I'm thinking is, get out of there, Triple H, now.
Yeah.
Get out. It's like, and you better pay and thank yeah, and Duggan changed up everything too. He had 30-minute matches in World Class, but he did. But not WWF, he didn't. But the biggest thing is when I saw Severn run out there, even though it's obviously part of the show, I was saying, even now, get out of there. Get out. It's like, Triple H, you're not trained for this. Get out.
Oh yeah.
This is me to this day. Just walking and watching him run down to the ring with his suit on. All I was thinking, even to this day, is you better pay and thank Jim Cornette for saving you. Because that would have been an absolute annihilation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, and then let's see our last topic here, and I really want to get your thoughts on this one. So coming out of the '80s and the '70s, where all these guys were like near giants, and then you had Andre the Giant, and it was all about the look. Everyone knows Vince McMahon's mind frame at the time period. His dream guys like 6'5", 275, 280, or 300. You know what I mean? Like they just had the look, just these hulking dudes. And along comes two guys who essentially revolutionized wrestling because you had Shawn Michaels. He stood about 6'1", and in real life he's like 5'10". And he goes about 227, 230. Yeah, Bret Hart stood about 6'1". He's probably 5'11" in real life, about 234. Now these are big guys in real life. I mean, realistically, they could play running back in the NFL, right? But because it's pro wrestling at this time period, they were considered small wrestlers. So just want to hear your thoughts on these guys being essentially, and guys like Dynamite Kid, being the catalyst and the pioneers of the smaller wrestler.
Shawn, you bring up Shawn. I'll tell you this: people would sell for Bret all day because his offense looks so real. I mean, he just had so much snap, so much oomph. HBK had to have Diesel show up before anybody sold for him. And then Scott Hall bumped to a punch for him, and then everybody started bumping again for it. Without those guys, he wouldn't have had a career.
Yeah.
But Bret Hart, Kevin Nash said this: a match with Bret Hart is like a 4-act match, a 3 or 4 act play. It's like first 5 minutes, the hitman takes over. Next 5 minutes, the heel. Then the next 5, they go back and forth. The next 5, the hitman, hitman, does his 5 moves in the net. And that's the thing, and then the finish. And that was like a 3 or 4 act deal. And it's like, and then HBK didn't want to go that far. He just, it was just like, what's next? It's very out of the blue. And then it's so fast and so quick. The thing about HBK, though, he can make it look real. Because I remember that whole deal with he and McMahon when McMahon was going to be the devil. And
yeah.
Remember that whole thing? And then he found his demon. I mean, Shawn found his inner demon to be mad and everything. And then all of a sudden you have you have him throwing one of the Spirit Squad out of the ring, and they throw 98 feet in the air.
Oh
They
yeah.
go 98 feet in the air. Yeah, 190-pound Shawn Michaels doing that. It's like. And it's like just the year before Hogan was doing that to like three
Yeah.
people. Yeah, and he was like 58 or like 50, like 55 or something.
And just kind of tossing them, yeah.
Yeah, and he's tossing young guys around. Like, but he weighed 300.
Oh
It's just
yeah.
like here's Shawn, who's 198 pounds. Bing.
Yeah. Pretty
And
much.
but it's like it just shows how good somebody is to make it believable. When you're 198 pounds, I mean, you had the muscle tone, but you're not. Everybody knows you're not a legitimate tough guy. You got slaughtered in Syracuse, and it wasn't necessarily 9 guys. I think it was like 1 guy, and he was drugged. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And no one could get out of the car to get him. And it's like That's what Kevin Nash literally said. He was away at the time because they put the booking away. They booked him away from each other, and that's how he got it. And he went up to Vince after Shawn got mutilated, and he went up to Vince and says, "This bodyguard gimmick isn't a joke. I got to watch that guy." So
yes.
they never left each other after that. But
Yeah.
it's like, but that's the thing, though. It's like everybody knows about Syracuse. Everybody knows he's not a fighter. If somebody's going to mess with his family, he probably would come through with something. But I mean, that goes without saying. That's a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's not that yet. For that moment, they believed he found that demon and just was impenetrable.
Right.
And just everything. And that's how good you are. You can get the crowd into it.
Absolutely.
And Hitman, I mean, I love it. My biggest thing is he's bitter now, and I hate that. But the biggest deal I can think about is I hate that he had the stroke, because if he'd still have half his movements today, he would be in the training center.
Oh, absolutely.
He'd be in a training center. He doesn't have his movements anymore because of his stroke, but he'd be in a training center helping people, just like Steamboat is.
Yeah, you know that had to be something, because Stu Hart trained guys like until what age?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
well,
you know what I mean?
Hurt,
and
it hurt me to see Brett get tackled at the Hall of Fame. Because Brett saw him outside of the ring, coming in, even though it was fast when he came in. He saw him. Any Brett without a stroke, he's ready. He's going to push the guy in the knots, and that's it. And then everybody comes in. He saw the guy coming in and still could do nothing about it.
Right.
His instincts, his quick twitch fibers are not there anymore.
No, he actually reported that he can't even like turn his head real fast without getting a headache.
Yeah, and it's like, and he saw the guy from the outside, so that shows you. That's the sad part. Any other era, and if he doesn't have that, even a 60-year-old man is ready.
Yeah.
And it's like, and do you notice at what happened after? It was there, Booker T and Stevie Ray, and Stevie was on his side.
Yeah.
even though Booker's not unhealthy, and Booker would have torn anybody apart to come in there, Stevie was still for his baby brother.
And and you know what? I don't know if you watched the Hall of Fame when the Harlem Heat got inducted. Stevie Ray still looks like he can get in the ring.
Stevie was right on that side of Booker. Where the guy came from. He was still there, and it's like that's protecting baby brother.
Absolutely.
Even though you've seen how Booker can still move today. You've seen how he could have torn him up, but it's like that's what brothers do.
Yeah, exactly. He's always going to look out for him, I mean, it was crazy because that's the first time we've ever seen Stevie Ray on WWE television. But it was just so great seeing him,
And Stevie looks great.
Yes, he looks like he can still get in there.
No, but that's the big thing. That's the big thing about it is the fact that we all need to watch our health in our life. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Bret Hart thing is because we don't know what could happen in that, what happened with him.
Right.
A guy like Bret needs to twist that guy in half and make people laugh, and then get a whole thing. He needs to be like that. It's like a guy who is so technically brilliant doesn't need to be tackled by some schmuck.
That's true.
It doesn't need to be tackled by some schmuck, and it's like That's the whole thing. That's why we need to watch our health.
Yeah,
That's why
that's
we
true.
all need to be able to watch our diets, watch everything like that, train constantly. Because
Yep.
we're going to be 60 one day, 70
Mm-hmm.
one day. It's like we all still going to all, even when we're older, we're still all going to want to have one good one in us.
Yep.
I mean, Brett doesn't have one good one in him anymore, and that's sad.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. Although I will say this, and I've always maintained it, that if that had not happened to Bret Hart, he didn't have long left anyway. And aside from that, in 2001, WCW is bought by WWE, and there's no way at that time period Bret would have gone back to the Royal Wrestling Federation. No way. He would have
No,
retired.
no. It's like that's seeing. I'm still. It was still pathetic that Hart's versus McMahon match. That was so pathetic. I mean, it's like you made him a baby. You made the McMahon a baby face with 8 hearts on an old man. I mean,
But people understood why it happened.
well, yeah, but it's like they just did. It was just looked horribly. Let's see, and this is these. I'll tell you this: the one thing about, and this is why I love to ask JK things, and you and I can talk like this and all that. It's like because I go off being past slice of life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
These little things that we talk about, there's a lot of things that I don't think happen, stupid things I don't think happen if Gorilla Monsoon lived.
True.
You know what I mean? I think Stone Cold. Remember, he was still around with Stone Cold. I think most of the Stone Cold stuff, but I don't think a lot of the stupidity of Vince Russo happens with Gorilla.
True.
You know, if Gorilla's healthy.
Oh,
if Gorilla's
yeah.
healthy. If the 380-pound Gorilla's around, and somebody then he's able to go up to Vince and go, no,
That's not happening.
I mean, no. And it's like, and someone asked me one time, what do I think Gorilla would have been if he would have been healthy? I said, I think Gorilla. Remember how he's getting into Stone Cold's face
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I think Gorilla would have been the one guy begrudgingly taking Stone Cold's side when everybody's against him.
Yeah,
I think he
true.
would have gone because no one wanted to boo Gorilla.
Mm-mm.
Not
he was too intimidating.
Soul.
He was intimidating even as an announcer.
He's that guy. He's that guy that Vince did not want to mess with. And it's like you always have a belief. You always have a belief that it's like, what if Gorilla shows up? What if he would show up and get in your face and everything? And it's like, it's the one guy he's respected.
Yeah, he's always
all
respected.
This time that he's listened to, and it's like, what if he attacks him? And then it's like Stone Cold. What if they have to hang together against the world? Because
Vince was literally Gorilla was literally the one guy that Vince would like. Like if Gorilla says no, there's a reason why he's saying no.
I mean, think about this: like 6'5", 380, 400-pound guy. Okay.
Yeah.
6'5", 380, 400-pound guy with a they carry $25,000 in stacks on him at all times.
True.
And carried it on him at all times, and he'd say, and they'd say, "What do you hit me that for?" "Oh, I might want to buy something." Like what? A house?
Yeah.
It's like, but who's gonna mug him?
Nobody.
Who's gonna mug him? I mean, I saw him on the WCW set once when WWF took it over. His hand covered 3/4 of the set.
That's insane.
His hand. I mean, and just imagine how much bigger Andre was.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's the thing. It's like Gorilla was the conscience and the heart with a lot of Vince, and it's like you have to wonder how much of Vince's ego went worse without him. You know, without the big man, because Gorilla would say no to him. Gorilla did not care. I mean, he just remembered his daddy was Little Vinny. It's like
if Gorilla, and then we gotta wrap up here in a minute. If Gorilla was around, Brawl for All never happens.
Oh yeah,
never.
Well, because you got a legitimate shooter who's like, no. I mean, Gorilla's a legitimate shooter.
Yeah.
Legitimate shooters know legitimate shooters get hurt. It's like Brawl for All does not happen. It's like, and the thing about that Brawl for All, and I can absolutely say this right now, for the stupidity of why Vince Russo did that, JBL almost won it. The final. Got to the damn final.
He almost won it.
got
He
to the final.
almost won.
He almost won it, got to the final. And it's like, why? What I mean, and if JBL wins that thing, if he gets that one shot in, oh my God, you wouldn't have gotten JBL out. You couldn't have thought it. You would have, but it probably changed his tone in life, because after all of that stuff, and then after his little issues, he ended up marrying Meredith Whitney, one of the big financial ladies. He learns he learns about finances. He learns about all that, and then he drinks beer out of a glass instead of a bottle. He learns about he learns still being a tough guy, but being whatever. You know what I mean? Being tough, but being sophisticated, refined.
Yeah.
And it's like he learned. Let me say this real quick. He learned about being refined and everything like that. If he would have won that, it probably doesn't happen. He probably becomes a much older bar fighter still.
Interesting.
And it's like, so that everything happens for a reason.
True. Very, very true. I mean, that right there. And something about the brawl for all we watch documentaries on it. And it's like, you're taking away from, the integrity of pro wrestling. How's this guy supposed to act like a badass if we just seen him get his ass kicked? Like,
and the way that they've done promos, not now, but the way they did promos was, I'm going to kick your ass, and then you lose. Now it's a little more nuanced. But that was the issue was, you know what I mean?
That's true.
And
Very
it's like,
true.
I think we need a show, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm good with doing wrestling on Punditviews every now and again.
That was nice, but it's like we might have to do this one day because we and I have a lot of the chemistry,
Oh yeah, especially when it comes to pro wrestling. But hey, that is our show. Thanks to Tyler Ingram for showing up in the comments and everything.
It's been fun to see you, and I hope everybody's feeling better.
Yes, absolutely. And but yeah, this is Punditviews. And next week, what's on the books for next week, Jake?
I'm planning that right now. We should have it pretty good. We should have another good one.
Yeah, y'all. So stay tuned for advertisements on Twitter.
I have one of our Sideline people I'm planning on. I'll find out. Okay.
Okay, yes. So everyone pay attention to your Twitters. Stay tuned in for our advertisements. Of course, Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Normally hosted by Jacob Christner. He'll be back in that seat next week. But for the pundit Jacob Christner, I'm Denzel Snipes. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all next Monday.